This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon to all. So in the last class, we discussed about electrostatics and magnetostatics. So basically, electrostatics are explained by Coulomb's law and magnetostatics by Biot-Savart's law. And to find the symmetrical distribution corresponding electric and magnetic fields, we have Gauss law and Ampere's circuital law. And after that, for the static fields, we have the Maxwell's equation, and at the same time, for the time varying fields also, we have the Maxwell's equation. So basically, we know once the charge is in the static condition, we have the static field, electrostatic field. And if that charge moves with the constant speed, then we have the magnetic field, static magnetic field. And when the charge is time varying, then we have the both electric and magnetic, or you can call that as electromagnetic wave. So see here, until the static conditions, both electric and magnetic fields are independent. And for the time varying fields where we have EM waves, both electric field and magnetic field both are interdependent. Because of that, the continuity equation also for the time varying field will adjust the Ampere's circuital law to include one more term, which is called displacement current density. So actually, Ampere's circuit's law is del cross H is J, and because of the continuity equation for the time varying fields, we have the some adjustment, or you can say some correction for that Ampere's circuital law, and that modified circuital law is del cross H is given by JC plus JD, and that new term JD is nothing but called displacement current density. Okay, so all those are explained in the last session, and now let us see what are the different characteristics of EM waves, and what are the transmission lines and different characteristics of transmission lines too. Okay, so now let us start EM wave characteristics part 1. So within this EM wave characteristics 1, we have to see what are the wave equations for the conducting and perfect dielectric media, and what is meant by uniform plane wave, and the corresponding plane wave equations in the perfect dielectric or free space media and conducting media, and specifically for the specialization of good conductors and good dielectrics. And wave equations we have to derive in the phasor form and time harmonic domains. And basically there are two situations to describe the wave equations in time domain and in space domain. And in space domain, once you say you have to write whatever the equations in the phasor form, just we have to replace that time variable by the corresponding frequency variable. Just we have to replace by dou by dou t by j into omega, and those things we have to see there. And the propagation characteristics, whatever the wave propagating, that has the certain amount of velocity, that has the certain amount of length, that has the certain amount of attenuation, etc., constants. So those characteristics, what are the definitions and how to find those things you have to see. Phase shift constant and intrinsic impedance, depth of penetration, and all those things. And especially we have to see two special cases of those wave propagation in good conductors and in good dielectrics. Okay, and finally we have to see what are the different types of polarizations and how they are called. So once you say homogeneous media, within that homogeneous media we have the general formulas for the electric flux density. D is epsilon E, and we know D is the flux electric displacement, and epsilon is the permittivity, and E is the electric field intensity. Similarly for the magnetic field, B, magnetic field intensity, and permeability nu. H is the magnetic field intensity, and similarly the current density J, which is equal to conductivity sigma into electric field intensity E, which is called Ohm's law. And now come to the wave equations for a perfect dielectric media. Simply you can say one example for the perfect dielectric media as free space. And perfect dielectric means whatever the charge density, that will be 0, and conductivity 0, and current density 0. And we can call the permittivity and the permeability both as a free space permeability or permittivity. That means just we have to write that relative permittivity and relative permeability values as 1. So basically epsilon means epsilon naught epsilon r, and epsilon r value 1, nu equal to nu naught nu r, and nu r value 1 for the perfect dielectric media. And the Maxwell's equations for the free space, del cross E minus dou B by dou T, which is given by Faraday's law. Del cross H is dou D by dou T. Actually del cross H is equal to JC, that means sigma E plus dou D by dou T, but since for the free space sigma 0, here the term is 0, so dou D by dou T, and del dot D is rho V, and rho V, since it is 0 for free space, del dot D is also 0, and del dot B is 0. So these are the 4 Maxwell's equations for the free space. After substituting those free space, that means the source free conditions, rho V value 0, J value 0, sigma 0, and by replacing epsilon equal to epsilon naught, nu equal to nu naught. And after this, by taking del cross E equation, we can get the for the free space del square E equal to nu naught epsilon naught dou square E by dou T square. And similarly for the magnetic field, del square H is equal to nu naught epsilon naught dou square H by dou T square. See here, del square is the Laplacian operator, dou by dou T is the partial differentiation. Why? Because here whatever the field is the function of distance and time, is the function of distance and time. That's why here we are taken partial differentiation, dou square by dou T square. Why? Because here E is function of both distance. If you say the propagation in Z direction, then that field is function of Z and time T also. And here no need to evaluate 2 equations to find E and H. Once you know the E, then by using the relation of E and H, which is theta equal to E by H, we can get the other one. Okay. Similarly, the wave equations for the conducting media, just we need to add one more term to them, which is nu sigma dou E by dou T. So here the wave equations for the conducting media, del square E equal to minus nu epsilon dou square E by dou T square minus nu sigma dou E by dou T is equal to 0. Similarly for the magnetic field also. And these equations can be derived by taking the corresponding mathematical identities we solved in the class. We can see step by step in the notes. By taking del cross E, you will get the left side term. And by taking del cross E equal to minus dou B by dou T, and after that by taking the dot product, by substituting del cross H, you can get the right side term. So like that, by equating them, we can get the corresponding wave equation in free space and at the same time in conducting media. Okay. So once you know the conducting media wave equations, then simply by substituting conductivity 0, sigma value 0, we can get the wave equations for the free space. Okay. And if you want to say those wave equations in the phasor form, that is the time harmonic form, here we have to replace that field E of Z comma T. Actually we said the field is function of 2 variables, distance Z and time T. And now once if you write the phasor form, we have to say the magnitude of that field, and then we have to write the time factor. So whatever the field in phasor form can be represented as the magnitude of that field e power j omega t. Okay, and generally we can say real part of that E into e power j omega t as the electric field. Okay, similarly H is magnitude of H e power j omega t. By differentiating once, dou E by dou T, magnitude is independent of T, so constant. E power j omega t differentiation, j omega into e power j omega t. And so we can write j omega magnitude of E into e power j omega t as E. So j omega E. And again by taking the second time differentiation, again you will get one more term j omega. So j omega, which will lead minus omega square, and the remaining term E. Similarly, dou square H by dou T square is minus omega square E, and dou H by dou T is j omega H. Just by replacing whatever the wave equations we solved in the previous case, that means in time domain, just you have to replace dou E by dou T and dou square E by dou T square by these corresponding time harmonic forms. That means just we have to replace dou E by dou T by j omega E, dou square E by dou T square by minus omega square E. Then you will get the wave equations for the conducting media and for the free space lossless media in the phasor form. So conducting media del square E, and there are the two terms for the conducting media, nu epsilon dou square E by dou t square. So dou square E by dou t square has to be replaced by minus omega square E, then plus omega square nu epsilon E, and the second minus j omega nu sigma E. So by that replacement, del square E minus of j omega nu sigma minus omega square nu epsilon of E. Similarly for the magnetic field. And similarly for the lossless, that means free space media, we have the del square E plus omega square nu epsilon E. Similarly for the H also. And all these equations in the phasor form are known as Helmholtz equations. And here that particular constant omega square nu epsilon in the lossless media is called phase shift constant. And we can call that omega square nu epsilon as beta square. And similarly in the conducting media harmonic wave equations, whatever that term minus of that bracket two terms j omega nu sigma minus omega square nu epsilon, we can replace that by the constant propagation constant gamma square. So just by replacing those, we can get here the equation del square E plus gamma square E equal to 0 for the conducting media. Similarly, for the free space media, del square E plus beta square E is equal to 0. And here the beta is called phase shift constant and gamma is called propagation constant. And that gamma is a complex quantity and their attenuation constant and a phase shift constant. That means one of the specific case of that is the beta. And now let us see what is uniform plane wave. So actually whatever the wave that will vary in accordance with the time and the distance. And now for that electromagnetic wave, if both E and H are perpendicular to each other, and at the same time if there is no component of E or H along the direction of propagation, then you can call that as uniform plane wave. So whatever the EM wave, whenever both E and H are perpendicular to each other, and whenever there is no component of E or H along the direction of propagation, or simply you can say whatever the plane perpendicular to that direction of propagation, there the properties or the characteristics of the electric and magnetic field should be constant. So whenever the EM wave satisfies all these conditions, we can call that as uniform plane wave. And one more thing we need to remember, that uniform plane wave will result from the source which is excited towards the infinite distance, not for the small distance. If you say the source of the small distance, that cannot be called EM wave. Why? Because that will take the different forms. Okay, and that is the extension of our subject. Okay, here uniform plane wave means that plane wave has no electric and magnetic field components along the direction of propagation, and E and H fields have the constant amplitude phase on infinite planes perpendicular to the direction of propagation. That means the constant characteristics of E and H in that perpendicular plane of direction of propagation. And for that uniform plane wave, we can take the solution by taking the corresponding wave equations. So for the free space, if you say del square E plus beta square E, just now we seen in the previous slide, and there the del square is the Laplacian operator, and here whatever the electric field is independent in the directions, and so here just you can replace that del square by dou square, dou d square by dou dz square of Ex plus beta. Ex means, see here we are considering the direction of propagation along the z direction. So there is no component along the z direction, both Ez and Hz are same. And if you say electric field along the x direction, then definitely there is a magnetic field in the y direction. There is no field component along z direction. So here just consider electric field is in the x direction. That's why the uniform plane equation in the free space is given by dou square Ex by dou z square plus beta square Ex equal to 0. And here that beta is nothing but omega root nu epsilon. Why? Because see here for lossless media, whatever the wave equation is del square E plus omega square nu epsilon E, and that omega square nu epsilon E is beta square. So beta is omega root nu epsilon. Okay, so that is called phase shift constant. And when you solve that in the forward direction, you can get some magnitude and cosine of omega t minus beta z. And see here, this is the solution once the wave is traveling in the forward z direction. If you say that wave is traveling in the reverse direction, then the term minus beta z has to be replaced by plus beta z. That means the solution is Ex equal to the magnitude or the phasor magnitude E plus cos of omega t plus beta z for the reverse direction propagation. Similarly for the hy component, and here the phase velocity. So whatever the velocity of the wave to have the constant phase is nothing but called phase velocity, and that Vp is given by omega by beta. And since beta is omega root nu epsilon, omega by beta is 1 by root nu epsilon meter per second is the phase velocity. So whatever the parameter associated with the propagation are called the propagation characteristics. Those are phase shift constant, attenuation constant, propagation constant, phase velocity, group velocity, etc., etc. So here one of the characteristic for the uniform plane wave equation, phase velocity, which is given by omega by beta 1 by root nu epsilon. Similarly, wavelength. Wavelength means the distance between two maxima points, or the distance to complete one cycle of sinusoidal. Okay, and generally that wavelength is represented by lambda, and that lambda is given by 2 pi by beta. And you can also represent in terms of frequency also. And the characteristic impedance is nothing but the ratio of amplitude of electric field to the magnetic field. Amplitude of electric field to the magnetic field. So magnitude of E by magnitude of H will give the characteristic impedance. And that, see here, we can call the characteristic impedance as intrinsic impedance. There is nothing wrong. Both are same. And that intrinsic impedance of free space media or lossless media is E by H is given by root nu by epsilon. And since for the free space nu is nu naught, epsilon is epsilon naught, that root nu naught by epsilon naught value is 120 pi, or you can say 377 ohms. So the intrinsic impedance or the characteristic impedance for the free space is given by 120 pi or 377 ohms. And now here the dot product of E and H, since they are perpendicular to each other, is always 0, and the cross product can be explained by the intrinsic impedance eta, E square by eta Az. See here, Az is the unit vector in the direction of Z, because here we consider the direction of propagation along the Z direction. So whatever E field is along X direction and whatever the H field is along Y direction. And remember, the cross product result is always perpendicular to the both vectors. So perpendicular to both X and Y directions is E square by eta, or you can say in terms of H, eta H square also. And similarly, uniform plane wave equation in the conducting medium. Just we have to replace that beta square term by gamma square term. And here that gamma is called propagation constant, which is a complex quantity, and real part is attenuation constant alpha, and imaginary part beta is the phase shift constant. Same term beta omega, that means for the free space beta value is omega root nu epsilon. And here we are saying the phase shift constant for the general conducting, not for the free space. For the free space or a perfect dielectric media, that beta value is omega root nu epsilon. Okay, and here that gamma is given by the general expression after solving root of j omega. Just sorry, here gamma is by the general expression of wave equation. We can write root of j omega nu of sigma plus j omega epsilon. And for the lossless media, since sigma value is 0, just by replacing that 0, j omega whole square under root, so j omega root nu epsilon. Okay, so whatever that gamma is simply equal to, for lossless media, just substitute sigma value 0, then j omega root nu epsilon, and so there is no real part. That means alpha value 0. Since for the lossless media, the conductivity sigma 0, within the propagation constant, alpha value will be 0. That means the real part 0. And the corresponding imaginary part beta, which is equal to omega root nu epsilon, as we have in the previous case. Okay, and the solution in the direction of plus z is given by e power minus alpha z cos of omega t minus beta z. See, the solution of uniform plane wave for the free space, there is no exponential term. But here for the conducting media, there is the exponential decay factor e power minus alpha z. That means whatever the electric field or magnetic field as it travels along the z direction, that corresponding amplitude will decay exponentially. And because of that, we have some measurement how the electric field is decreasing the amplitude and how fastly it is decreasing and how fastly the EM wave is penetrating into the medium. That has the one more parameter which is called skin depth. We will discuss. And here the characteristic impedance for the conducting media. See, for the free space, just we can write magnitude of E by magnitude of H as 125. And now for the lossy dielectric or conducting media, we have the general expression, which is square root of j omega nu by sigma plus j omega epsilon. Intrinsic impedance, so the units are ohms. And here the permittivity also can be represented as a complex quantity. So once if you represent that permittivity as a complex quantity, as usual, the real part is same as the normal permittivity. And in addition, that additional term sigma by omega, which represent the power losses in the material. So once for the conducting media, we say the permittivity, there are some power losses. To include that, we have to take the imaginary part term sigma by omega. And based on that only, we can represent the loss tangent, which is tan inverse. That means angle theta is nothing but tan inverse minus b by a. So using that formula, minus sigma by omega by epsilon. So we can call that sigma by omega epsilon as loss tangent of the material. Okay, so that is our loss tangent formula, tan inverse of sigma by omega epsilon. And here that sigma by omega epsilon is the parameter which describes whether the material is good conductor or good dielectric or perfect dielectric. So based on this, why we are calling the material as a good or good conductor or good dielectric, etc., since it is called loss tangent. And if it is so for greater than 1, we can call that as good conductor. If so for less than 1, we can call that as good dielectric. If it is 0, perfect dielectric, like that. Okay. And whatever the attenuation and phase constant from that expression of gamma, we can have the general formulas. Attenuation constant omega of root of nu epsilon by 2, again of root of 1 plus sigma by omega epsilon whole square minus 1 of. And similarly for the beta also, we have the same formula, just instead of minus 1 in the last term, we have to write plus 1. So these are the general expressions for the attenuation and phase shift constants. And wave propagation in the medium, that means here general wave propagation equations we said in terms of beta and gamma. And the general formulas of that beta or gamma or alpha in the base perfect media or perfect dielectric media, we have these for lossless perfect dielectric, since alpha attenuation constant 0, gamma is simply equal to j beta, and that beta is given by omega root nu epsilon. And here the phase velocity omega by beta, eta value root nu epsilon, root nu by epsilon. See here, whatever the wave propagation in the perfect dielectric media or in the perfect conductor or whatever the case of the media, good conductor or good dielectric, there no need to write the corresponding wave equations. Just we have to describe that wave propagation characteristics. That means what is alpha, what is beta, what is gamma, what is VP, phase velocity, what is intrinsic impedance, what is the last tangent, etc. values. Okay, so here for the lossless perfect dielectric media we have those, and for the free space just we replace nu and epsilon by nu naught epsilon naught, and whatever the phase velocity is equal to free space velocity, which is 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second, and eta value is simply 125 or 377. And for the good conductors we have the formula for alpha and beta, both are same, and eta there is the magnitude and some phase angle, and the phase velocity Vp value root of 2 omega by nu c, and all these expressions are derived, and those derivations are in our material also. Similarly, for the good dielectric we have the alpha beta formula and eta formula, and here the phase velocity is different than free space or good conductor phase velocity. Okay, so these are the general expressions, or you can say the general wave propagation characteristics of the different media: good conductors, good dielectrics, free space, and perfect dielectric. Okay, and whatever the term in the solution of uniform plane wave for the conducting media, e power minus alpha z, right? And that exponential term is indicating that EM wave or the magnitude of magnetic field is decreasing as it travels, and that travels where that wave is attenuated to the 1 by e times of that maximum value, and that much of distance is nothing but called depth of penetration, or you can say skin depth, and that skin depth is simply given by reciprocal of the attenuation constant, so 1 by alpha, and alpha formula already we said in the previous slide, and that is replaced. And for the good conductors and good dielectrics, whatever that alpha formula in the previous slide, just we have to replace that, then you will get the skin depth. Okay, so skin depth for the good conductor is given by root of 2 by omega nu sigma. See, for the good conductors that skin depth is inversely related with the frequency. Skin depth is inversely related with the frequency. That means for the higher frequencies that skin depth value is low, and similarly it is inversely related with the conductivity. That means for the high conductivity material that sigma value is 0. That's why we are saying for the good conductor or for the perfect conductor where that conductivity is infinite, the skin depth is 0. That's why whatever the point charge placed in the perfect conducting media, that will immediately disappear, and that will appear at the surface of the conducting media. Okay, so based on this you can conclude that. That means whatever the point charge we place in the conducting media, that will disappear immediately, and that appears at the surface of the conducting media. Okay, so perfect conductors where sigma is infinity, skin depth is 0. And similarly for the good dielectric, sigma is given by that formula delta is given by 2 by sigma root nu by epsilon. Okay, and since here for the perfect dielectrics the conductivity sigma is 0, the delta skin depth is infinity. Okay, that means whatever the EM wave will decays 1 by e times at infinite distance for the perfect dielectric. Whereas for the conducting perfect conductors, that will 0 immediately. That means the skin depth is 0. Instantaneously that amplitude is decreasing. Whatever the EM wave, simply you can say that cannot penetrate through the good conducting medium. EM wave will travel towards infinite distance in the free space. Okay. And the next topic is the polarization of plane waves. So generally polarization means the direction of electric field. So whatever that electric field component, once if it travels in the free space or whatever the media, and that traveling traces certain path, and based on that tracing path we can call that particular wave in that polarization. So here polarization means the direction of electric field. Okay, so whatever the direction of electric field, if it follows the linear line, then you can call that as linear polarization. And within that linear polarization, if it has the equal magnitude, we have the circular polarization. If it has the different magnitudes, then we have the elliptical polarization. So these are the specific cases of the polarization. And again, within the straight line linear polarization, we have the three different cases: horizontal polarization, vertical polarization, and making some angle, theta polarization, or you can say linear polarization with some angle. So in the figure 1, we have the direction of propagation along z direction, and this is called horizontal. And similarly, if E is along y direction, then we can call that as vertical polarization. And if E is in between x and y, making some angle theta, then we can call that as a theta polarization. And here circular polarization means that the corresponding field components, see here, electric field or magnetic field in the direction of propagation doesn't exist. So here we consider the direction of propagation is along the z direction. So whatever the component of E or H may have the components along x direction or y direction. Okay. If it has only x direction component, then you can call that as horizontal polarization. If it has only y direction component, then you can call that as vertical polarization. And if you have the both Ex and Ey components and with the same magnitude, then we can call that as a circular polarization. If they both have the different magnitudes, we can call that as elliptical polarization. And within the circular polarization also, we have the rotation towards the left side or rotation towards the right side. So accordingly, we can call that as a left circular polarization and a right circular polarization. And here these are the figures of the elliptical polarization. Either Ex or Ey is higher than the other one. And here also left elliptical polarization, right elliptical polarization. So these are the polarizations, and whatever the direction of cosines of vector field can be identified by these dot products. So R is the position vector, and that means in which direction we are going to measure that particular, and that position vector is R. So once if you take R dot AR, whatever that direction of cosines, that will give the direction of the propagation of. So actually this formula is useful to find incidence in the EM wave characteristics part 2. So how to measure the angle of plane incidence or reflected case, refraction case. There this direction of cosines formula is used. R dot AR is x cos theta x, y cos theta y plus z cos theta z. Theta x is the angle made with respect to x axis, theta y is the angle made with respect to y axis, and theta z is the angle made with respect to z axis. And whatever that R, that is the position vector or the line joining to measure the particular point. So where we have to find out the direction. Okay. So these are EM wave characteristics part 1. So just here, what are the wave equations, and how can you represent those wave equations in the phasor, and those wave equations for the specific cases of medias: perfect dielectric, perfect conductor, and good conductors and good dielectrics. And once we say the propagation characteristics for those specific cases, we have the formulas. And actually there are the derivations also. Here those derivations are not discussed, and those formulas are necessary to solve the problems. And some more characteristics: spin depth, direction of cosines, all those things, polarization, are all these are covered in the unit 4, EM wave characteristics 1, sorry, unit 3. Okay. And in the EM wave characteristics part 2, there we have to see the angle of incidences. According to the angle of incidences, we have the two different cases: normal incidence and oblique incidence. So this is the EM wave characteristics part 2. Okay, can anyone ask the question in the unit 3, EM wave characteristics part 1? So part 1, wave equations, how to derive. wave equations for the perfect media for the corresponding media, and wave propagation characteristics, and wave propagation characteristics of the different medias, and especially the expressions for the intrinsic impedance, for the free space value, and for the conducting media, the general expression, and some more topics, skin depth, polarization, and within that polarization, the space differences. Okay, and based on those formulas, we have the problems also. Yes, anyone? Okay, I will go to the EM wave characteristics too. So in this one, the main objectives are what is meant by normal incidence and oblique incidence, and for the different media, how the wave behaves with the normal and oblique incidences, what is meant by reflection coefficient and the transmission coefficient, and how to find that reflection and transmission coefficients of those two different cases. And within the oblique incidence, we have to discuss two different types of the polarizations of the electric field, horizontal and vertical polarization. And with those two conditions, horizontal, or you can say that as horizontal, or you can say that as a perpendicular polarization, vertical polarization, or you can call that as a parallel polarization. So with these two, we have the two cases in the oblique incidence. And Snell's law and total internal reflection, Brewster angle, surface impedance, Poynting vector, Poynting theorem, these are the small topics which are useful. So here, normal incidence or oblique incidence, we can define that normal incident wave or oblique incident wave according to the angle of incidence. If that angle of incidence theta is making 90 degrees with respect to the plane of incidence, or you can say with respect to the boundary surface, according to that we have the normal and oblique incidence. So here, once the incident wave is normal to the plane of boundary, then you can call that as the normal incidence. And oblique incidence means the incident wave makes some angle theta with normal to the plane of boundary surface. So see here within this figure, we have the material media 1 and media 2, and the center line is the surface or boundary between media 1 and media 2. And for this one, the perpendicular or normal line is along a horizontal direction. So once the wave is incident in that direction, we can call that as normal incidence. If that wave is making some angle either in this direction or in this direction by making some angle, then you can call that as oblique incidence. Okay, and generally media 1 are characterized by the nu1 epsilon 1 v1 velocity eta 1. Similarly, media 2 epsilon 2 nu2 v2 eta 2. And here, whatever the angle of incidence is represented by theta I, whatever the angle of reflection is represented by theta r, whatever the angle of transmission or refraction is represented by theta t suffix. Okay, and here we can also define that angle of incidence, that means incident angle theta I, which is the angle made by incident wave with respect to the normal to the plane of boundary. And similarly, theta r is also reflected wave versus that normal line of the similarly theta. So these are the definitions: incident angle theta I, reflection angle theta r, transmission angle theta r. Angle at which incident wave makes with the normal to the interface or boundary is called incident angle. Similarly, reflected wave, reflected angle or reflection angle. Transmitted wave, we can call that as transmitted angle. Here the symbol is not clear. Theta suffix t, not r. Both r and t are looking like same. Transmission angle means theta suffix t. Okay. And the next Snell's law, which is useful to find the two different refractive media's parameters. And here theta I by theta t. Where we have the refractive media, there we can use that Snell's law, or you can call law of refraction, which is sine theta I by sine theta t, which is v1 by v2, which is equal to eta 2 by eta 1. Velocity v1, that means velocity in media 1 by velocity in media 2, eta 2, that means characteristic impedance of media 2 by characteristic impedance of media 1. Okay, and here we can replace v1 and v2 by the general formula 1 by root nu epsilon, and v2 as 1 by root nu 2 epsilon 2. And whatever the dielectric media, generally whatever that nu r value is approximately equal to 1. So for the general dielectric medias, we can replace just nu by nu naught and epsilon by epsilon naught. Okay, so by that we have the Snell's law in terms of permittivity, which is root epsilon 2 by epsilon. Okay, so this Snell's law is also called law of refraction. So where the wave is refracting, there we can use this Snell's law. And similarly, law of reflection, whatever the angle of incident is equal to angle of reflection, theta I is equal to theta r. And generally the reflection coefficient means the ratio of amplitude of reflected wave to the incident wave is nothing but called reflection coefficient. And similarly, the transmission coefficient means amplitude of transmitted wave to the incident wave. Et by Ei is the transmission coefficient, Er by Ei is the reflection coefficient, magnitudes. And for the perfect conductor, the reflection. So for the perfect conductor, since the conductivity is infinity, so there is no chance to travel the wave into the second media. Why? Because it is perfect conductor. So whatever the entire wave is completely reflected. Okay, that's why here we have the standard waves. So whatever the wave is incidenting is completely reflecting back with the same thing. That's why here we have the standing waves. Okay, standing waves, both will meet at the same zero crossing points. And here generally we consider the wave is propagating in the z direction, so positive z direction. So we have the general form, magnitude of that incident wave Ei, e power minus j beta z. In the x direction we consider ax. Similarly, hi is hi e power minus j beta z ay. And whatever the sum of incident magnitude and the reflected magnitude is equal to transmitted magnitude. Since here there is no transmitted magnitude, 0, and hr equal to hi. So by solving that, we have the electric field solution and the magnetic field solution equations. E is 2 ei sine beta z sine omega t ax. Similarly, h is 2 ei by eta cos of beta z cos omega t ay. And the reflection coefficient for this case is -1, and the transmission coefficient is 0. Okay, and here those equations E and H are solved by taking that condition A plus ER equal to 0. That means EI has to be replaced by minus ER and HI has to be replaced by HR. Okay, so this is the reflection by perfect conductor. Similarly, the reflection by the perfect dielectric, there is some amount of transmission, and here EI is given in terms of eta 1 hi, and ER also given in terms of I think here is so sorry, same media minus eta 1 HR, and ET is for the second media eta 2 HT, and whatever the sum of incident and reflection is equal to transmission, EI plus ER equal to ET and HI plus HR equal to HT. And by solving for the transmission coefficient and reflection coefficient ER by EI in terms of intrinsic impedance values, eta 2 minus eta 1 by eta 1 plus eta 2. So actually there is the derivation, long derivation to find reflection coefficient and transmission coefficient. Okay, just here we have to replace that ER by EI, and here ER is given by minus eta 1 HR, EI is given by eta 1 HI, and after that HI plus HR HT equation you can solve to find the reflection coefficient, which is eta 2 minus eta 1 by eta 1 plus eta 2. Similarly, the transmission coefficient is 2 eta 2 by eta 1 plus eta 2. These are for the electric field. Similarly, for the magnetic field, just reverse the eta 1 and eta 2s. That means HT by HI is 2 eta 1 where you have for the electric field eta 2, here eta 1. Similarly, the reflection coefficient for the magnetic field is given by eta 1 minus eta 2 by eta 1 plus eta 2. And we can also write these reflection coefficient and transmission coefficient in terms of the corresponding permittivity of the media. That is a reflection coefficient root epsilon 1 minus root epsilon 2 by summation of those two. And transmission coefficient is 2 root epsilon 1 by root epsilon 1 plus epsilon root epsilon 2. Similarly, for the magnetic field also, just reverse the media parameters, root epsilon 2 minus root epsilon 1 by root epsilon 1 plus root epsilon 2. Similarly, the transmission coefficient for the magnetic field is 2 root epsilon 2 by root epsilon 1 plus root epsilon 2. So these are the reflection by the perfect dielectrics. That means what is the corresponding reflection coefficient and what is the corresponding transmission coefficient in terms of different parameters, eta or permittivity. And similarly, the reflection of a plane wave with the oblique incidence. So within this oblique incidence case, we have to say two different cases: horizontal, or you can say perpendicular polarization; vertical, or you can say parallel polarization. Okay. And to get the particular horizontal or vertical polarization generalized wave equations, we have to use the direction of cosines we discussed in the previous topic, EM wave characteristics part 1, last one, direction of cosines, R dot A. That formula has to use to find the corresponding electric or magnetic fields in this case. So here the horizontal polarization. So whatever the magnetic field component is parallel to the boundary, or we can say whatever the electric field component is perpendicular to the boundary. Since it is perpendicular to the boundary, we can call that as a perpendicular polarization. And since it is perpendicular to the boundary, the plane of incidence is parallel to that one. That's why we can call that as the horizontal polarization. See here, don't be confused. We can call that as horizontal polarization or perpendicular polarization with respect to the corresponding angle of incidence or with respect to the corresponding boundary surface. Okay, so with respect to boundary surface, it is perpendicular. With respect to angle of incidence, it is horizontal. That's why we can call this as horizontal or perpendicular polarization. And whatever the horizontal antenna that can produce these horizontal polarization waves. See, actually, in this figure, we have the clear way, but somewhat confused. We discussed it in the class already. Why these are like that one? Yeah, actually, it is along the plane incidence. And since it is perpendicular to the boundary, how it is called parallel, all those things are already discussed in the class. Okay, so don't be confused in this. Similarly, vertical polarization means it is parallel. That means corresponding electric field is parallel to the boundary, or we can say it is perpendicular to the plane of incidence. So for the horizontal polarization case, here same what you have in the normal incidence case. Here also the same, just we have to replace e power minus j beta z term in the previous case by the corresponding direction of cosines, x sine theta plus z cos theta. For the reflection, x sine theta minus z cos theta. And what is that theta? So after solving this, we have the E expression minus j to e sine of z beta z e power minus jx beta x ay. Similarly for the h also. So actually these derivations are long. See once on your notes. If you face any doubts, you can contact. And similarly the reflection of vertical polarization with oblique incidence. For the perfect dielectric case with horizontal and vertical, all those reflection and transmission coefficient formulas are necessary to solve some problems. So these are the cases of oblique incidence: vertical or parallel, horizontal or perpendicular for the perfect dielectric case, and these are the for the conducting media. And next topic, Brewster angle. So the angle of incident wave where there is no reflection. Where there is no reflection is called the Brewster angle. Where there is no refraction, that is called critical angle. So here that Brewster angle is given by tan inverse root epsilon 2 by epsilon 1, and the total internal reflection will result where there is no refraction. So the critical angle is the angle at which there is no refraction. Okay. Simply you can say once the theta I angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle, then there is no transmission takes place. There is no refraction. That means the entire wave is reflected to the same media. That's why we can call that phenomena as a total internal reflection. So surface impedance based on the conductivity and that factor e power minus alpha z. Once wave is traveling into the conducting media, that corresponding magnitude is decreasing exponentially, and that is due to the surface impedance of that conducting media, and that surface impedance of the conducting media is given by generally the tangential component of E by the current density, or in general in terms of the propagation characteristics, gamma by sigma. Sigma is the conductivity and gamma is called propagation constant. And for the good conductors, that gamma has to be replaced by root of j omega nu sigma, and based on that we have the surface impedance general expression for the good conductor, which is root of omega nu by sigma by making angle 45 degrees, which is same as characteristic impedance. So for the good conductor, we can say the surface impedance and the characteristic impedance both are equal, which is 120. Sorry, whatever that value. And here impedance means complex one, and by making real and imaginary parts, we can get surface resistance and surface impedance. And the next topic is Poynting vector. So Poynting vector is nothing but the cross product of E and H. So the cross product of electric field vector and magnetic field vector is nothing but called Poynting vector, and which is power density. That's why here the units are watts per meter square. And why we can call that as a Poynting vector is described by the Poynting theorem. So these are the expressions of average Poynting vector in free space and in general medium, and a complex Poynting vector. And here the Poynting vector derivation are why we are calling E cross H as a Poynting vector is explained in the Poynting theorem. So actually the Poynting theorem is saying whatever the cross product of E and H at any point will indicate rate of energy flow per unit area at that point. Rate of energy flow per unit area at that point. And that direction of energy flow is perpendicular to the both E and H planes. Why? Because it is cross product. So by taking that cross product of E and H at any point, since that E cross H is representing energy flow per unit area at that point, we can call that as the Poynting vector. That's why the units are watts per meter square. Okay, and for that one we have the derivation. So whatever the first term by the Ohm's law, the second term by the corresponding energy stored in the electric field, and the last energy stored in the magnetic, that summation is the second term, and the third term is the rate of flow of energy. And by combining all, we can finally say E cross H is representing that energy flowing per unit area. That's why we are calling that as a power density vector. which is P, and it is also known as Poynting vector. And whatever that power loss in the good conductors, in terms of source impedance, we can write this formula. Effective power loss in the good conductors is given by 1 by root 2 surface impedance magnitude and surface current density, effective surface current density magnitude square watts per meter square. So these are the topics in unit 4, EM wave characteristics part 2. Okay. So here just we see incident angle, reflection angle, and refraction angle, and the loss associated with the refraction media and reflection, and what are the angles in order to make no reflection, in order to make no refraction, and what is meant by the surface impedance, and how can you find the total internal reflection, and what is the normal incidence and oblique incidence, and accordingly to specific cases how to get the E and H expressions, and all those things we see. Yes. నిద్రపోతున్నాడా లేకపోతే
411
LE 411
oh
okay, what happened to him? Okay,
okay sir. Continue.
this is about EM wave characteristics part 2. So next we have to see transmission lines. You can ask any question in these EM waves and transmission lines. EM wave characteristics part 1 and part 2. Now let us see about transmission lines. So actually transmission line means it's nothing but a device which is used to transfer electric field energy from one point to the another point. So within these transmission lines part 1, we need to know what are the different types of transmission lines, how they are structured, what are the basic concepts and applications, and what are the basic transmission line parameters, and corresponding characteristic impedance, propagation constant, attenuation phase shift constant expressions, phase velocity and group velocity concepts, and finally what are the conditions of lossless and distortionless transmission line, and what are the different types of distortions, and what is meant by loading, and what are the different types of loading. All these are discussed in the transmission lines part 1. So here the transmission line means it is nothing but a two-wire conductor, or you can say, or it is the guided structure in order to transmit electric or magnetic waves over the long distance. So there are the various types of the transmission lines based on their corresponding characteristics. So in the first figure we have the open wire transmission line, which is a two-wire line, and the second one coaxial cable, and the third one waveguide, and in the bottom we have the microstrip line, and here optical fiber. So these are the different transmission lines, and most of the cases we will say two parallelly connected wires as the transmission line, open wire transmission line. Okay, so open wire transmission line, coaxial cable, optical fiber, waveguides, and microstrips are these are different types of the transmission lines. So one by one, each one has the certain parameters and applications. Open wire lines are useful for the telegraphy lines, and coaxial cables are useful for the different applications like microstrip lines. And whatever the transmission line is the subsequence of the parameters. So here, whatever that equivalent circuit of the transmission line is indication over the unit length only. That same circuit is repeatedly connected in series over that entire line. Okay, so over that particular unit length, what are the parameters here? R, L, G, and C are known as the primary constants or the primary parameters of the transmission line. And here that series impedance R plus j omega L is indicated by Z, and the parallel admittance Y is G plus j omega C. And for the lossless media, that means there are no losses if you say G value 0 and R value 0. That means the series resistance and shunt admittance, if both are 0, we can say that as lossless. Okay. And remember all resistance, inductance, capacitance, conductance.
Sir.
All these are measured over S.
Hello, sir.
Chappan, madam.
Sir, camera not visible, sir. Camera, sir.
Oh, already it is in the. Can you verify now?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay. ఇప్పుడు లేదు సార్ రావట్లేదు నాకే చూపి. Okay, okay, sir.
Am I visible now?
No, sir.
Yes, students.
Visible, sir.
Okay. So here the transmission line parameters are L, G, C. So series impedance R plus j omega L, shunt admittance G plus j omega C. And if the series impedance resistance R is 0 and shunt admittance conductance Z value 0, then we can call that as a lossless transmission line. Okay, and those are the different conditions. So here all these are measured over the unit length. That's why what are the units for the R, L, G, and C are different than the normal cases. That means see here, resistance has the units ohms per meter, whereas the general case resistance is measured in ohms. Now here that R is having the units. Ohms per meter. Similarly, inductance is Henry per meter, capacitance farad per meter, and conductance is mho per meter. So like that here, whatever the resistance, inductance, all those are measured over the unit length. And all these are cascaded to form the total transmission line. So here series impedance and shunt admittance. And for the parallel line, we have the derivations for the R, L, G, and C. And for the coaxial cable, the resistance, inductance, and capacitance, conductance expressions. So to write the transmission line equations, we have to say the sending side and receiving end. And here the sending side wave equations V and I are given by Vs cos h gamma x minus Is z naught sin h gamma x. Similarly, I is Is cos h gamma x minus Vs by z naught sin h gamma x. Here Vs and Is are the sending side voltage and currents, and gamma is the propagation constant. And whatever the characteristic impedance z naught is given by the square root of series impedance to the shunt admittance. That is root z by y, which is root of R plus j omega L by G plus j omega. And whatever the propagation constant gamma is given by alpha plus j beta. And that is in terms of the primary constants root of z into y, that is root of R plus j omega L into G plus j omega C. Okay. And here that the characteristic impedance z naught and the propagation constant gamma both are called secondary constants of the transmission line. See here for the transmission line we have the primary constants and secondary constants. Primary constants means whatever the parameters involved in the equivalent circuit R, L, G, and C. And secondary constants means those are related to the primary constant values, that is root of R plus j omega L by G plus j omega C is z naught, and similarly root of the product of those is nothing but called gamma. Okay, and here once the transmission line has the infinite length, then you can call that as infinite transmission line. And for that infinite transmission line, we know the input impedance is the same as the characteristic impedance. So generally at the sending side, whatever the input impedance is sending side voltage by sending side current. And now for the infinite transmission line, whatever the characteristic impedance of that transmission line is equivalent to the that corresponding sending side input impedance. That's why here we can call a transmission line as infinite line if the input impedance is equivalent to the corresponding characteristic impedance of the transmission line. Okay. And here gamma is the propagation constant and generally measured in dBs or Napier's. And again here the propagation constant is the combination of alpha and beta. That means real part is attenuation constant and beta is the phase shift constant. But remember here all those are measured per the unit length. Napier per meter, decibels per meter, like that. Okay. And if any transmission line is terminated with the characteristic impedance, that means whatever the load is equivalent to characteristic impedance, then we can call that as the matched transmission line, and that will behave like infinite transmission line. So here instead of taking infinite length transmission line, whatever the transmission line, if it is connected to the load of its corresponding characteristic impedance, then it will behave like infinite line. Is it clear? So transmission line of infinite length have the same characteristics if the transmission line is terminated with the same, that means whatever the transmission line, that characteristic impedance is equivalent to the load impedance. Okay, so here for the transmission line, once it is terminated by its corresponding characteristic impedance, we can call that as a matched transmission line. And since that matched transmission line is behave like infinite transmission line, that input impedance Vs by Is is equivalent to characteristic impedance Z. And similarly, the characteristic impedance for the open wire transmission lines is given by that formula 276 log D by R ohms. And for the coaxial cable, that characteristic impedance is given by 138 by root epsilon R log B by A. And the transmission line with the source generator, here we have the formula for Is, VL, IL. See here, VL is receiving end or load side voltage, and similarly IL is load current. And whatever the attenuation and phase constants alpha and beta are given by these formulas, we can express that alpha or beta in C. Alpha is measured in Napier or decibels. That means Napier per meter, decibel per meter. Similarly, the phase shift constant is measured in radians per meter or degrees per meter. And whatever the velocity of propagation is omega by beta, which is 1 by root nu epsilon. And group velocity is d omega by d beta. That means envelope of complex wave velocity is called group velocity. See here, group velocity means there are many components. So there is the chance to have the complex wave to transmit, and for that complex wave, whatever the envelope and how much speed that envelope is propagating, that is decided by the group velocity. And that group velocity is given by d omega by d beta, whereas the phase velocity or whatever the velocity of wave is given by omega by beta. And there is the relation between group velocity and phase velocity. So here phase velocity is group velocity into 1 minus beta dVp by dV. So using that relation, if you know the group velocity, we can find phase velocity or vice versa. And any transmission line is said to be lossless whenever attenuation constant alpha 0, or in general in terms of primary constant, whenever the series resistance, shunt conductance, R value, G value 0, then we can say that is lossless. Or once the line is said to be made by the perfect conductor and perfect dielectric, we can call that as lossless. And with that R and G as zeros, we can say the alpha value 0 and phase shift constant is omega root LC and characteristic impedance is root L by C. And similarly, the phase velocity is given by 1 by root LC, which is equal to 1 by root nu epsilon. So for the lossless transmission line, to find beta directly, you can use that formula omega root LC. And to find characteristic impedance, we can use directly that formula root L by C. Similarly, a line is said to be distortionless transmission line whenever the corresponding attenuation constant is independent of frequency and the phase shift constant is directly proportional to the frequency. That means whenever alpha is independent of frequency, that means constant with respect to frequency, and whenever beta is directly proportional to the frequency, or you can say linearly varying with frequency, then you can call that as a distortionless transmission. And with that condition, we have the distortionless transmission R by L equal to G by C. So for the transmission lines, whenever R by L is equal to G by C, then you can say the transmission line is distortionless. See here, lossless means R value, G value 0. That means that line should be made by the perfect conductor dielectric. Distortionless transmission line means that should be independent or that should be distortionless in respect to frequency. So generally distortions means here amplitude distortion and frequency distortion, and that amplitude distortion will be 0 whenever alpha is independent of frequency, and the frequency distortion will be negligible or 0 whenever the phase constant is directly proportional to frequency. So to eliminate all those distortions, definitely we need to have alpha should be constant, beta should be linearly varying. So with those R by L equal to G by C, we have the distortionless transmission. And for this also we have the characteristic impedance, same formula root L by C, and VP is 1 by root LC, and phase shift constant beta is omega root LC. But here alpha is R root C by L, or you can say R by V naught L. Okay. Just lossless alpha 0, and for the distortionless alpha is given by R into root C by L, and remaining formulas are. And for the high frequency transmission line, these are the formulas for alpha, beta, VP and Z. And the high frequency transmission line means it is a distortionless, so we can use the same formulas of distortion lines, transmission lines. Just one small term added in attenuation constant, which is almost negligible term. And for the telephone cable, that means audio frequency transmission lines where omega L is super greater less than R and G is super less than omega C. We have the alpha and beta same root omega RC by 2, and phase velocity is root 2 omega by RC, and characteristic impedance is root R by omega C by making angle minus 45. So to have the minimum attenuation, the condition is R by L equal to G by C. That means minimum attenuation means no distortion. So whatever the line distortion is basically either frequency distortion or amplitude delay distortion. So these distortions will not occur whenever alpha is independent of the frequency and beta is linearly varying. Okay. So to achieve minimum attenuation, that is a distortionless, we can reduce the resistance R, we can increase the G, we can decrease C, we can increase L. But here, out of all these cases, increasing L is somewhat a suitable case for the practical situations. And adding inductance in order to minimize the attenuation is nothing but called loading. See here, we can minimize the attenuation of the distortionless transmission line by taking any of these conditions. By reducing resistance, series resistance, by increasing shunt conductance, by decreasing the capacitance, and by increasing the inductance of the transmission line parameters. And here, out of all these cases, increasing inductance is practically suitable. That's why here adding inductance in order to minimize attenuation is necessary for the particular applications, which is nothing but called loading. So loaded line means just we have to seriously connect the inductance, and if you connect that inductance continuous throughout the line, you can call continuous load. If you connect that inductance over the sections, then you can call that as patch load. And lump loading means we have to take those coils continuously over the particular period. So these are the different types of the loadings. So these are the characteristics varying attenuation constant with respect to frequency of the unloaded line, lump load, continuous load, and patch load. Okay, so this is about transmission lines part 1. And similarly, in the transmission lines part 2, we have the transmission line equations, and based on those equations, so actually time is almost near to 3:30. I will fastly conclude this. So transmission lines part 2, in this we have to derive the transmission line equations. So actually here this is the equivalent circuit of the transmission line of any part. So whatever the transmission line can be formed by the series or cascaded form of the different small sections over unit length, and over each section we have the RL, GC, and for the distortionless R value 0 and G value 0. That's why here only L and C components are represented for the distortionless. And here the symbol to represent inductance is L suffix H. Why? Because here whatever that inductance is representing the inductance per unit length. That's why here L suffix H is simply equal to L into H. L is having inductance in Henry, so L into H Henry meter, so LH is having that Henry per meter. Similarly, capacitance is also. So by taking one node at a particular node, by writing the KVL, we have the one equation, and all these are already seen in our notes. Simple equations to have the transmission line equations. Have you seen all these? And with respect to transmission line also, we have the reflection and transmission coefficients and voltage standing wave ratio. All these are simple formulas which are used to solve some problems. Same formulas almost. So within the transmission line part 2, just we have to see the transmission line equation, primary voltage and current equation with respect to the different cases. And based on those transmission line equations for the infinite line and the distortion line, we have to find out the reflection coefficient and the voltage standing wave ratio. And based on those, we have some applications also. So all those things just by reading you can know. Nothing complex in that one. So that's the end of revision of EMTL with the 6 units. You can ask now any questions, we can clarify. We will discuss. Yes. That's the end of revision of EMTL with the 6 units. So actually it is revision. So no topic is in detail discussed. Just outlines are discussed in the PPTs. And whatever the detailed sessions are already given in your material, please go through. And if you face any doubt, you can contact me or you can WhatsApp me at any time. I think everyone knows my WhatsApp number 9966 5818 39. Okay.